When a woman goes silent, it's not because she doesn't care. It's not because she's given up. It's because she's learning to listen to herself. Her silence is not empty. It is full of questions, full of emotion, full of reflection. You see, when the noise dies down and she no longer responds the way she used to, it's because something inside her has shifted. She's not avoiding the situation, she's sitting with it, she's not ignoring you, she's tending to her own energy. That silence, it's sacred. It's the place where she meets herself face to face, stripped of all illusions. In that space, she's asking herself, how did I get here? What patterns have I accepted? What has my soul been trying to tell me that I've been too distracted to hear? This kind of silence isn't passive. It's not the silence of defeat. It's the silence of a storm gathering its wisdom. It's the quiet before clarity, before alignment. She's replaying conversations in her mind, but not because she's stuck, because she's looking for truth between the lines. The truth about how she's been loved or unloved. The truth about how her needs have been silenced or dismissed. The truth about how she's shown up in relationships that may have chipped away at her voice. This silence is not about you, not entirely. It's about her healing. It's about her finally giving herself the attention and presence she's so often given away to others. And when she does speak again, it won't be with the same softness you once knew. It won't be out of fear or people pleasing. It will be rooted in her truth. Until then, her silence is her sanctuary. It's the space where she no longer performs. She's not trying to be understood anymore. She's learning to understand herself. She's unlearning the idea that she has to explain her boundaries to be respected. She's breaking the cycle of arguing for her worth. Because when a woman truly knows her value, she doesn't fight to be seen. She chooses where she gives her light. And let's be honest. Some men don't notice the power of a woman's silence until her absence becomes permanent. They realize too late that her silence wasn't withdrawal, it was wisdom. That she wasn't being distant, she was healing. And healing isn't loud. Healing happens in whispers, in the sacred pauses, in the moments when she stops chasing and starts choosing. If she's still silent, it means she's still searching within. That's not weakness, that's transformation. She's rebuilding her foundation. She's not looking to be saved. She's saving herself. And when she finally rises from that silence, she will no longer question what she deserves. She'll know. And when a woman knows, there is no going back, only forward. When a woman becomes silent, it's not that she's forgotten your words. It's that she's finally seeing through them. She's no longer moved by the promises you make in the heat of the moment or the apologies that only come after damage is done. She's watching now, not your lips, but your patterns. Because the truth is, words can lie, but patterns don't. They expose intentions, they uncover cycles, and they tell the truth even when your mouth doesn't. She's paying attention to what you do when you think she's no longer invested. When her reactions grow colder and her questions disappear, it's not because she doesn't feel, it's because she's already felt too much. And now she's observing. She's noticing how quickly you go back to your old habits, how you break your own word without hesitation, how your effort comes only when you feel her slipping. She's watching, and with each moment of silence, she's collecting clarity. See, for a woman who has given deeply, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, silence becomes her way of gathering herself. It's how she puts space between the fantasy you sold her and the reality that keeps repeating. In that space, she's no longer asking, why does he keep doing this? She's asking, why have I kept allowing it? That question changes everything. It shifts her from blaming to awakening, from hoping to healing, from waiting on you to choosing herself. And maybe you think the silence means the problem is gone, but she knows better now. She knows that real growth isn't in what you promise after an argument. It's in how you change when no one is watching. It's in how you show up consistently, not just when your comfort is threatened. She's observing if you follow through when she no longer reminds you, if you respect her boundaries when she stops explaining them, if you cherish her presence even when she's not fighting to be seen, because she's done chasing potential. She's no longer looking at your words as evidence of who you could be. She's looking at your patterns as proof of who you really are. And that level of awareness, that kind of maturity, it comes with silence. It comes with learning the difference between love and attachment, between connection and convenience. It comes when she stops romanticizing what you say and starts honoring what she feels. She's grown tired of cycles, tired of explaining the same needs, repeating the same boundaries, and hoping for a different result. So now she sits in silence, not because she has nothing to say, but because she's finally giving herself permission to listen to what her spirit has been whispering all along. You deserve better than inconsistency. Her silence isn't cold, it's clear. She's done giving access to someone who confuses her peace. She's done begging for accountability. And in this clarity, she watches. She watches to see if your actions will finally align with the love you claim to feel. Not for her to stay, but to see if you're capable of becoming the man she once believed you were. And if you can't see the depth in her silence, you may never understand the depth of her love. Because it takes a woman who has loved hard and been disappointed deeply to reach this point, a point where she no longer interrupts your patterns with pleas. She simply watches, and what she sees in your consistency or your lack of it will guide her next move. And trust, once she moves in silence, her decision will be final. She has realized something powerful. Not everything deserves a response. Not every situation requires her energy. There was a time when she would have chased resolution, tried to talk it out, tried to explain how your actions were affecting her heart. But that woman, she's tired now, tired of repeating herself, tired of explaining what should have been felt, tired of hoping that being more understanding would make you more consistent. And so instead of raising her voice, she lowers her presence. Silence for a woman like her becomes sacred. It becomes her protection. It's her way of reclaiming power in a space where she once gave too much of herself. She no longer feels the need to debate her worth or prove her loyalty. She's done shrinking herself to make someone else feel bigger. She's no longer arguing for a seat at a table where she's been left starving. Silence is not her weapon, it's her healing. You might interpret her silence as coldness, as distance, but in truth, it's her warmth being redirected inward. She's learning how to give herself what she kept waiting for you to offer: attention, care, presence, peace. She's filling her own cup now because she's learned the painful truth that some people will keep taking until there's nothing left, and she refuses to be emptied again. When a woman has been hurt but still chooses grace, still chooses silence over spite, that is strength. That is growth. She knows that not every conflict needs to be won, not every wrong needs to be addressed. This kind of silence is not absence, it's realignment. It's her stepping back, not to create distance, but to find direction. She's choosing herself in a way she never did before. And when a woman begins to choose herself after a season of self-abandonment, she becomes untouchable. She becomes grounded. And no amount of noise from others can shake what she's come to know within. So if you're wondering why she's not responding like she used to, if you're feeling the emptiness where her presence once was, know this: it's not that she stopped caring, it's that she started caring about herself more. She's learned the difference between peace and silence forced by fear. This silence, it's chosen, it's empowered, it's transformative. There was a time when she would have fought harder, spoken louder, tried longer. She would have asked, "Why can't you see me?" But now she has begun to see herself, and that shift in awareness changes everything. She's no longer interested in being the one who fights for a connection while the other floats in comfort. Now she watches how you show up when she stops initiating, how you move when she's no longer trying to save what keeps drowning her. And that shift, that's where her silence gains its greatest strength. You may believe you still have her attention, but what you have now is her reflection. She's not waiting for you anymore. She's studying you quietly. She's examining whether your actions align with the values you claim to live by, whether your love has roots or just words, whether your presence brings peace or confusion. Every time you slip into old habits, every time you brush off her silence without concern, she learns something, not about you, but about what she can no longer accept. It's in this silence that she rewrites her expectations, not to lower them for you, but to finally raise them for herself. She's thinking not only about the love she gave you, but also the love she withheld from herself in trying to keep something alive that was never being nurtured in return. And that realization hits deep. It becomes her reason for growing quiet, not because she has nothing to say, but because she said it all again and again, and the echo she kept receiving has finally faded into clarity. She's no longer asking for your time, your energy, your effort. She's observing if you offer it freely, because that's where real love lives, in the unprompted, in the consistent, in the small moments that require no stage. She's looking to see if you show up not because she begs, but because you choose to. That kind of love, the kind that doesn't have to be dragged out of you, that's what she's watching for now. And maybe you don't notice the shift at first. Maybe her silence feels passive to you. But if you knew what was happening beneath the surface, you'd understand the weight of it. She's building boundaries from the inside out. She's learning to trust herself again, to listen to that quiet voice that says, you deserve more than this. And that voice, once fragile, is becoming louder in the quiet. That's the voice that will eventually make the final call. You may still have her eyes, but you no longer have her vulnerability. She's reclaiming that for herself. You may still see her smile, but it's different now. It's no longer rooted in your validation. It's rooted in her peace. And when a woman reaches that level of healing, there's nothing more powerful. She won't raise her voice anymore. She won't try to convince you. She'll just decide. And once she decides, there's no coming back. Because the silence you took lightly was actually her transformation in motion. When she withdraws, when she stops texting first, when she no longer asks how you feel or what's on your mind, it's easy to assume she's just being distant. But what you're witnessing is not distance, it's discovery. A woman doesn't pull away for no reason. She pulls away because something has shifted inside her. Something once soft and eager has turned quiet and watchful. She no longer feels safe to express freely, and so she returns to herself, to that inner space where she doesn't have to fight to be heard. She used to care loudly. She used to over-explain, over-apologize, and over-invest, even when she was met with silence or disregard. She thought that if she just loved harder, showed up more, sacrificed a little longer, the relationship would shift. She thought her persistence would eventually be recognized and returned. But people can only pour so much of themselves into something that constantly leaves them empty. That realization doesn't always come with a dramatic ending. It often comes in silence, in small, private moments when she's lying awake wondering why she feels more alone beside someone than she ever did by herself. This is the phase where most people miss the significance, because she might still smile. She might still listen. She might even still be kind, but she's no longer open. Her trust is retreating. Her heart is reevaluating, and her intuition is louder than ever. What you do in that space will tell her everything. If you rush to fill the silence just to silence your own discomfort, she'll know. If you accuse her of being moody or dramatic, she'll know. But if you meet her quiet with curiosity instead of control, if you ask, what have I missed? What have I ignored? Then maybe, just maybe, the door will open again. But make no mistake, once a woman begins to nurture herself more than the relationship, she becomes her own sanctuary. She's not afraid of being alone anymore. She's tasted the strength that comes with solitude, the beauty of not having to explain her feelings, the power of loving herself without condition. That's the real transformation. That's when she becomes whole. By the time she's quiet, By the time she's stopped fighting, she's already halfway gone. So listen, truly listen, not just to what she says, but to what she no longer says. Because the absence of her voice may very well be the presence of her healing. When a woman stays silent, it's not because she has nothing to say. It's because she's already said it all. Not once, not twice, but through every gesture, every effort, every conversation where she tried to make things clearer, better, and more connected. And when all of that is met with indifference, denial, or defensiveness, she learns. She learns that speaking louder won't make you listen deeper. She learns that begging for clarity won't build intimacy. And so she stops. But even in her silence, she watches, and that's what most people overlook. You think she's detached, but she's more aware now than ever. She notices what you say and what you don't, what you prioritize and what you avoid. She hears your silence louder than your words. And in that space of watching, her soul starts writing a new story. One where she is no longer a supporting character in your life, but the author of her own piece. She begins to recognize the emotional labor she carried, trying to hold a connection together, while her own needs quietly unraveled. She used to give you the benefit of the doubt. She used to believe that maybe he's just stressed, or maybe I'm asking for too much. She'd silence her own intuition to protect the illusion of closeness, but not anymore, because now she sees. She sees how silence from someone who claims to love you can be the loudest betrayal. She sees how comfort and effort are not the same. She sees that if love has to be proven through pain, then it's not love, it's survival, and she's done surviving. Now she's observing if your actions can match your words without her having to ask. She's not looking for grand gestures, she's watching for sincerity, for the small things that matter. The respect in your tone, the presence in your eyes, the consistency in your behavior. She's watching if you notice that she's gone quiet and whether that silence moves you to care or makes you more comfortable. Because if her absence feels easier than her honesty, then she knows all she needs to know. Her silence becomes her clarity. It becomes her reset button, the sacred space where she finally chooses herself, not from anger, but from truth. She no longer needs to convince you of her worth. She no longer hopes you'll rise to meet her heart. Instead, she chooses peace over potential, dignity over discomfort, and inner alignment over outer attachment. And yes, you'll feel that shift. Maybe not at first. Maybe you'll assume she's just giving space or processing her feelings. But with each passing day, that silence grows roots, not into resentment, but into resolve. The resolve to love herself more deeply than any version of love that costs her her voice. And once that seed is planted, it blooms into freedom. You might still see her, still talk to her, still think you have time, but what you really have is a woman who's becoming untethered from what no longer nourishes her. She's finding her voice again, not to speak to you, but to speak to herself, to affirm what she deserves, to remind herself of what real love looks and feels like. The kind that doesn't have to be earned through emotional exhaustion. The kind that sees her, hears her, values her, and shows up. So if she's silent, ask yourself, what did I do with her words when she gave them to me? What did I do with her trust, her tears, her truth? Because that silence, it's not her giving up, it's her leveling up. And once she learns to live in peace without begging for presence, she won't unlearn it.